never passed in high school.
Hello YouTube, it's been a rough week. Yeah, kind of fun. Yeah, I just want to address two things here. I don't really want to do a script, I just want to talk. First, why I'm not debating anybody, and second, my views. Specifically regarding the skeptical heretic and evogen. When somebody makes a personal attack against me, the debate ends there. And I'm not trying to prove myself to people who intentionally misinterpret and lie about my position. And when I'm defending myself against personal attacks, that shifts the focus away from the argument. And the skeptical heretic said something about me being a pawn and a puppet, and that I'm being manipulated by people I've never even talked to before this whole thing started. And he did this to discredit me, and the people I associate with and what I wear, etc., have nothing to do with the validity of my position. And I think it was Evogen who placed a picture of me next to the KKK in one of his slides, and this is deliberately misleading. Man, grow the fuck up. And taking literally what I said about nature. How thick could you get to think that I was literally personifying nature and science and evolution, giving them intentionality and the ability to choose favorites, and then using the naturalistic fallacy against me? I don't think I ever stated that something being natural is inherently good. I did imply that something that is naturally occurring is not unnatural, and therefore it exists, like race and racism. And then the skeptical heretic brought up the Nisbet study, which I never even referred to. It's just little things like that. And what these guys have demonstrated is intellectual dishonesty, a lack of intellectual integrity, and very heavy intellectual superiority and cognitive bias. And I can't, nor do I care to respond to everything. Most of these are inconsequential ad hominem attacks, and I never claimed to have the only correct worldview. I like to discuss my worldview in a non-hostile manner, like my views on race and racism, racialism, race realism, nationalism, traditionalism, tribalism, the hereditarian position on race, etc. I want to challenge the status quo and preconceived notions. I want to eliminate stigmatization and encourage openness. Not defend myself against attacks, especially when these attacks are coming from people who lie and assume and assert and put words in my mouth and selectively respond to bits of my video out of context. And I really don't have the energy or the time for this. And you can think about me whatever you want. I fully support that. Honestly, it's not my problem. Now, I am vague in my videos. I don't like to speak in very technical terms. It bores the fuck out of me. And I'm just gonna take a wild guess here that most people watching this are not geneticists or biologists, and so I like to keep the language simple. And if you don't like this, it sounds like a personal problem. There are resources available, and I will link to some of the books and studies that I have read or I'm currently reading. But you'll notice some recurring themes in the material used, you know, in this whole debate thing. And I'm not going to go over these in detail, but regarding the bell curve, it is an older book, but it's not outdated. There is a newer edition, and it has been challenged and critiqued, but never discredited. And there, the studies used in the book have been questioned, but there are other studies supporting the same thing, and the overall message of the book is it presents nothing new to the field of science as far as the race and IQ gap, and this is what Charles Murray sets out to demonstrate. The moderate hereditarian position that I hold, that is that IQ is inherited, not learned, and I advocate for a genetic explanation of the race and IQ gap, and this is popularized by the bell curve, and this gap has long been established. Again, this is what Charles Murray demonstrates in his studies on racial IQ gaps in populations, and there are other studies supporting this. And I personally support completely voluntary nationalism for every racial group. I am completely against coercion. I'm against force. I am against forcing people to return to indigenous lands. I am against forcing racial hierarchies in a multicultural society, but that's kind of what you get in a multicultural society. I support homogeneous states, racially homogeneous, and voluntary separatism with a multicultural option for those who want to opt out. I don't want to force anybody, and as impractical and idealistic as this sounds, that is my ideal. Segregation is naturally occurring. It happens without force, and my position has nothing to do with eugenics. I am not for eugenics. I am pro-nationalist with a multiracial option. It's preference, it's flexible, and I'm not intolerant of other races. I'm still a nationalist, but I would like to see different racial groups existing as their own people independently. Now, how I define race is irrelevant, but I go by a very widely accepted definition of race. It is that race is essentially, well, it is variation. It is genetic allele frequency, genetic clustering, and heritability applies to groups of people, and for all intents and purposes that defines race. It has to do with proportions and patterns and placement and expression. And we do share a majority of our genes, but in population genetics, it is the frequency that determines genetic diversity in a population, as well as on the individual level. And it's absurd to reject the idea that evolution affects the brain as well. Evolution occurs in various ways in different populations, and this is both genetic as well as environmental. And it's a very small percentage of DNA that determines race, and this is the differences are manifest in phenotypic traits, and that includes IQ. So race is genetic, and as a subspecial category, it's a perfectly acceptable taxonomy. Now, there's no consensus among scientists, but this is mainstream information, and there's no dividing line. There's no specific genetic marker, although there are common genetic markers within populations. So, someone said something about a melting pot, and this is confusion because genes do not blend, genes do not mix, they combine. And if you're following Darwinian evolution, this is exactly the sort of diversity you should expect to see. Frequencies and variation within a population. You get diversity. The Darwinian theory does not support sameness or the melting pot concept. If that were true, then the term diversity would have no meaning as it applies to populations. And second, we would be seeing the creationist theory in action, that speciation and breeds and evolution itself could not occur. If you're denying that, then you're denying evolution. And I would recommend anything by Richard Dawkins, specifically The Selfish Gene. He has the most beautiful way of putting words onto paper. I just love the way he writes. And Stephen Pinker in The Blank Slate, he also gets into that a little bit. But anyways, so bottom line, I am a racial realist, and I'm okay with that. So just to clear up some misconceptions. Anyway, bye guys.
Ignorant, okay? You're calling me ignorant. That's bullcrap, okay? I've did plenty of research, okay, on your bullshit version of life called evolution, okay? I've done plenty of research for years,